Don, you got anything?
No, not yet, Josh. We have found stuff in this sand, so let's just keep on at it. It's a coin, and I'll tell ya, it's not from here.
Looks like Arabic! Yes! Nice work!
Yes!
History's most wanted man, a treasure that could topple empires, a disappearance so perfect it became a legend. This isn't just a story about pirate gold, it's about Captain Henry Avery, a man who accomplished the impossible. He executed the single greatest heist of all time and then simply ceased to exist. For centuries, everyone has looked in the wrong place. They looked for secret maps and hidden islands. The truth, however, is far colder and far deeper. It's waiting in the murky depths off Cornwall, and Josh Gates is about to drag it into the light. A find worth millions. The dive conditions were brutal. The water temperature was bone-chillingly cold, hovering at just 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Visibility was a murky few feet at best, with powerful tides that could turn a diver into a rag doll in seconds. The window to safely search the bottom was dangerously small, limited to the brief period of slack tide when the water was calmest. Armed with high-tech metal detectors, the team descended into the green gloom sweeping over centuries of sand and silt. The thing nobody tells you is that most of what a detector finds down there is junk. Old fishing weights, discarded scrap metal, maybe a modern coin dropped from a boat. The divers found musket balls, a clear sign of a past vessel, and even a single die, a personal item lost by a sailor hundreds of years ago. These were interesting, but they weren't the jackpot. They needed something specific, something that screamed Avery. And then it happened. The detector gave off a sharp, clear signal. A diver dug carefully into the sand and a shape emerged. It was a coin. But as the silt cleared, Josh Gates realized this was no ordinary piece of silver. It was an Arabic coin. This was the wow factor, the piece of evidence that changed everything. What in the world was a coin from the Middle East doing in a shipwreck off the coast of England? To the untrained eye, it was an anomaly. To Josh Gates, it was the smoking gun. This single silver coin was a direct link to Captain Henry Avery's legendary heist of the Ganj-i-Sawai, the treasure flagship of the Indian Mughal emperor. The coin wasn't just treasure, it was a 300-year-old message from the pirate king himself. It was proof that against all odds, they were in the right place. The ghost they were hunting was real, and they had just found its first footprint. This discovery was more than just a lucky find, it was a seismic shift in one of history's greatest cold cases. For the first time in centuries, there was a physical clue connecting Avery's lost fortune to a specific place. The team was ecstatic, their adrenaline pumping despite the freezing water, but the ocean is a fickle partner.
Josh, look at this. It's a musket ball.
Unbelievable! Look at that!
Just as the excitement reached its peak, the currents began to shift, becoming dangerously strong. They were forced to ascend, leaving the rest of the secrets on the seabed. But they surfaced with more than just a coin. They surfaced with tangible hope. They now knew the resting place of Avery's treasure wasn't a myth. What other secrets did this underwater graveyard hold? A fortune beyond dreams. To understand why one little coin could cause so much excitement, you have to understand the man behind the legend. Captain Henry Avery wasn't just a pirate, he was a game changer. In the late 1600s, he rewrote the book on piracy. Before Avery, most pirates were little more than sea muggers hitting small merchant ships for modest scores. Avery thought bigger. He was an experienced Royal Navy officer who, after being stranded with his crew for months without pay, decided to lead a mutiny. He didn't just want to get by, he wanted to become a king, and he knew just where to find his kingdom's treasury. You see, in 1695, Avery got word of the ultimate prize. The Grand Mughal treasure fleet was making its annual pilgrimage voyage from India to Mecca. This fleet was loaded with the immense wealth of the Mughal Empire, one of the richest empires on Earth at the time. The crown jewel of this fleet was a massive ship called the Ganj-i-Sawai, which translates to exceeding treasure. And it lived up to its name. On board was a staggering fortune in gold, silver, precious gems, ivory, and silks. Reports claim the treasure was worth over 600,000 British pounds at the time. In today's money, that's well over $100 million, and some estimates push it closer to $400 million. Avery assembled a squadron of pirate ships and lay in wait. The battle was fierce. The Ganj-e-Sawai was a formidable vessel, armed with around 40 cannons and hundreds of soldiers. But Avery was a brilliant and ruthless tactician. In a stroke of incredible luck, one of his first cannon shots took down the Ganj-e-Sawai's mainmast, crippling the giant ship. After a brutal 2-hour fight, Avery and his pirates boarded the vessel and seized the legendary treasure. It was the single most profitable pirate raid in history, a score so large it would never be equaled. Avery had done it. He was now the richest pirate in the world. But not all things are what they seem. A victory this huge doesn't go unnoticed. When news of the heist reached the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb, he was furious. This wasn't just a robbery, it was an international incident that threatened to shatter the fragile relationship between India and the powerful British East India Company. The emperor threatened to expel all English trade from India unless Avery was caught and punished. Suddenly, Henry Avery wasn't just a wanted pirate, he was the subject of the first ever global manhunt.
We got a piece of wood here! Wow! That is a small sliver of wood that may be from the wreckage!
A massive bounty was placed on his head, and the full might of the British Empire was tasked with bringing him to justice. Avery had become public enemy number one. He and his crew fled, splitting the treasure, with each pirate walking away a rich man for life. And then Henry Avery did his greatest trick. He vanished. He was never caught. His treasure was never found. This is what makes him the king of pirates. Not just the size of his score, but the perfection of his getaway. But how could a man and a fortune that big just disappear? More than luck. The discovery of the Mughal coin was monumental, but it also opened up a bigger question. Why Cornwall? Why would Henry Avery, a pirate who operated in the Indian Ocean, end up wrecking a ship on the far southwestern tip of England? The answer lies in the brutal and unforgiving nature of the sea itself. Cornwall's coast juts out into the Atlantic like a giant granite hook, right in the path of some of the world's busiest and most dangerous shipping lanes. For centuries, ships returning to England from long voyages had to navigate this treacherous passage. After months or even years at sea, a single miscalculation in navigation or a sudden violent storm could spell disaster. This coastline is a natural ship trap. There are hidden reefs like the infamous manacles, which have claimed over 100 ships and 1,000 lives. The currents are notoriously unpredictable, and dense fog can roll in without warning, turning the sea into a blind maze of deadly rocks. You see, a ship in the 17th century didn't have GPS or advanced weather forecasting. They sailed by skill, instinct, and a whole lot of luck. A ship trying to make landfall in a storm, especially one trying to do so secretly, could easily be smashed to pieces on the Cornish coast. It's the perfect place for a pirate on the run, laden with treasure, to meet a tragic end. Finding the remains of one specific ship among the 6,000 that lie on the bottom is an almost impossible task. This is where modern technology gives treasure hunters an edge. Josh Gates' team didn't just jump in the water and hope for the best. The search began with years of painstaking historical research, poring over old maritime records, sailors' logs, and local legends. They then used advanced sonar equipment to map the seabed, looking for anomalies, lumps and shapes that didn't fit the natural underwater landscape. These could be anything from rock formations to the remains of a sunken vessel. Once a target area is identified, the real work begins. The divers rely on state-of-the-art underwater metal detectors. These aren't like the ones you see people using on the beach. They are highly sensitive instruments that can differentiate between different types of metal, sending signals back to the diver through headphones built into their helmets.
Oh, wait! Got something here! Whoa! Right there! That's a coin! Look at this!
This allows them to focus their search on non-ferrous metals like silver and gold, the very things Avery's treasure was made of. It's a slow, methodical process. A diver might spend hours sweeping an area the size of a tennis court, fighting against currents and cold that sap their strength and focus. Every signal has to be investigated, every find carefully excavated from the sand by hand. It's a job that requires the patience of a saint and the courage of a lion. The thing nobody tells you is that time is the greatest enemy. 3 centuries of saltwater, sand, and powerful currents have taken their toll. A wooden ship like Avery's would have been torn apart, its timbers scattered and buried. The treasure, the coins, the jewels wouldn't be sitting in neat chests. It would be dispersed across a wide debris field, hidden beneath feet of shifting sand. Finding one coin is a miracle. Finding the rest would require more than just technology. It would require rewriting everything we thought we knew about Avery's final days. Dead men tell no tales. So a coin from the greatest pirate heist in history is found off the coast of Cornwall. This is where the story takes a turn, moving from a treasure hunt into one of the world's oldest and most fascinating cold cases. What really happened to Henry Avery? For over 300 years, historians and treasure hunters have debated his fate. The discovery in Cornwall adds a shocking new possibility to the list. But to appreciate it, you have to look at the other theories that have swirled around his legend. One popular story claims that Avery and his crew sailed to the Caribbean, bribed the governor of the Bahamas for protection, and tried to live out their days in luxury. However, when word of the global manhunt reached the islands, the pirates were forced to flee again. Another tale, and perhaps the most tragic, suggests that Avery returned to England in disguise, but was swindled out of his vast fortune by crooked merchants in Bristol. According to this legend, the king of pirates, the man who held a king's ransom, died a penniless and forgotten pauper. Many of his crew were eventually caught and faced the gallows, but none of them ever gave up the location of the main treasure hoard. But now, we have the Cornish connection. The presence of that coin suggests a more dramatic end. Did Avery, trying to sneak back into his home country, get caught in a storm and lose his ship, his treasure, and his life on those unforgiving rocks? It's a plausible theory. It would explain why the treasure was never found. It was scattered across the bottom of the Atlantic. This is the kind of story that makes sense to us. It's neat, it's tidy, a classic tale of a villain getting his final comeuppance from Mother Nature.
It's hard to imagine this isn't part of the Henry Avery story. Well, according to history, there's about $100 million worth of it sitting out there.
That would be nice.
It'd be really nice.
But the thing is, with a master of deception like Henry Avery, the simple answer is almost never the right one. What if the shipwreck wasn't an accident? What if it was a deliberate act of misdirection? This is where we step into the world of speculation, but it's a world that the average Joe watching this can't help but get lost in. Think about it. You're the most wanted man on Earth. Every port is on high alert. How do you disappear? Maybe you create a phantom wreck. You intentionally sink a ship with a small part of your treasure, enough to leave a trail to make the world believe you and your fortune are lost at sea. While the authorities are busy looking for bodies and gold in Cornwall, you, Henry Avery, slip away quietly with the bulk of the treasure to live out your days in obscurity. It's the kind of brilliant final deception that would fit the legend of the Pirate King. Are we just missing a key detail here? The thing is, we may never know for sure. Every clue only seems to add another layer to the mystery, another question to the puzzle. Is the Cornish coin the key to the whole treasure, or just the final brilliant trick from history's greatest pirate? The search continues. Let us know in the comments what you think really happened to Henry Avery. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more dives into the unknown.